to order. Good evening, everyone. We've got a full house this evening. That's great. You guys are all going to stay here for the entire agenda, right? No? I see Todd. Todd, I know you started early this morning. I'm sure you're going to be here till what, 10, 11 o'clock tonight? Yeah, thank you. Members of council and those from the gallery and those watching on COGECO, we are going to be following two agendas this evening. One is going to be our Committee of the Whole meeting agenda, and that's going to be followed by our regular meeting of council agenda. We're going to start off with a prayer from Councillor Angie Desmarais, and that will be followed by the national anthem by Mr. Joel Longfellow. Councillor Desmarais.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Dear wise and loving Father, if it be your will, would you graciously grant this assembled council wisdom to govern amid conflicting interests and issues of our times, a sense of the welfare and true needs of our citizens, a keen thirst for justice and rightness, confidence in what is good and fitting, the ability to work together in harmony even when there is honest disagreement, personal peace in our lives and joy in our tasks. As we go forward with the agenda set before us today, it is in your most blessed name I pray. Amen.
O Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all thy sons command. With glowing hearts we see thee rise, the true north strong and free. From far and wide, O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keep our land glorious and free. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
Thank you, Joel. As always, well done.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My pleasure as always.
Members of council. Well, first off, Madam Clerk, are there any addendum items this evening?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. There's an item to be withdrawn this evening, that being under number 8, presentations, item B, presentation of appreciation to Todd and Carrie Schultz, Beth and Kevin Kramer, Colborne Youth Basketball, to be dealt with at a later date.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Members of council, I need a motion to confirm the agenda, please. Councillor Desmarais, Councillor Kenny, are there any questions? All those in favor? Opposed? That would be carried. Thank you. We'll now move on to items that may, in fact, have disclosures attached to them. Members of council, Councillor Elliott.
Thank you, Mayor. Got a conflict on item number 10. I'm trying to figure out how to describe that. I am one of the people that is contained in number 3 on item 10.
Thank you, Councillor Elliott. Any further disclosures, members? With none, we'll move on to determination of committee items requiring separate discussion. Councillor Steele, Councillor Kenny, Councillor Bodner.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll bring forward the conflict on item 10 and item number 4.
Councillor Kenny.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd like to speak on number 10 as well as item 15.
Councillor Bodner.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to speak on item 10 and 27.
Councillor Desmarais. Councillor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to speak on item 10, please.
Members of council, further items for lifting this evening? Councillor Butters.
I'd like to speak tonight, item number 10 and 15.
You said 15, Councillor?
Yes, sir.
Further items, members? With none, I will ask for a motion to approve the remainder of the items, please. Councillor Desmarais, Councillor Bodnar. Are there any questions? All those in favor? Opposed? That would be carried. Thank you. We'll now move on to presentations, and I'll be doing those from the podium. You know, it's always a pleasure when I stand on this podium to introduce, more importantly, to recognize our youth in our community, and this evening is no different. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure this evening to welcome the Port Colborne Hornets under-11 Adam girls basketball team to our chamber this evening. And I'm going to ask the girls to come on up. I want you guys to come on up here in the front here and line up here. The coach as well. Come on up, guys. And we're going to have you guys line up right in the front here. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure, it's actually my privilege to be here on your behalf, not only yourselves in the gallery, but those on COGECO, the community, the city of Port Colborne, and of course members of City Council, to congratulate this team for their Ontario Basketball Association championship win in the under-11 Adam Division 4 category. These guys are Ontario champions. At such a young age, it's something to be extremely proud of. As a parent of two girls myself who play basketball, I know firsthand the amount of time that you girls put into practicing and playing basketball throughout this season. And you still have to balance your family life, your school work, and everything else. And I'm not sure how demanding your coach is, but I know many coaches are very demanding on making sure you attend all the practices and all the games. So to that and that balance, you guys should be extremely proud of yourself. May I say that, and I know this firsthand as well, that you worked hard. You worked extremely hard, and you worked on behalf of this community. You guys represented the city of Port Colborne extremely well while playing hard, and with that, you make each and every resident of your community, your neighbors, your family, and your friends extremely proud that you brought back home the gold medal, the Ontario Championship for your age group. The determination that stayed with you throughout the playoffs, throughout the entire OBAs, is the same determination that will enable you to succeed well into the future, well into your future. This is something that you're never going to forget, girls. You're never going to forget this. You're all going to be together many, many years from now, reminiscing and looking back on this championship, and again, something to be extremely proud of. So I am going to take this opportunity on behalf of members of council, but more importantly, girls, on behalf of each and every resident of the city of Port Colborne, to present our congratulations to you by offering you our token of congratulations and appreciation by offering you a plaque and a certificate. Not a plaque each, a certificate each, but a plaque for the team. So I'm going to call you up here one by one, and first off I'm going to read the first certificate. They are all the same, but with that, different names of course. And of course every time the first name I have troubles with. This is presented to, now if I pronounce the name wrong, please let me know. This is presented to Jennifer Kozel. Did I pronounce it right? How do you pronounce it? Kozelj. I'm sorry, come over here, Jennifer. This is presented to Jennifer Kozelj in recognition of your outstanding contribution to the Port Colborne Hornets under-11 Adam girls basketball team and your achievement as the Ontario Basketball Association Division 4 champions. May I extend my congratulations on behalf of each member of council and all the citizens of the city of Port Colborne. Your dedication and your commitment to your team reinforces the value of teamwork evident throughout our entire community. You win together today, you walk together forever. Congratulations. Well done. Now before I call Zoe Gagnon, and Zoe Gagnon, come on up, but while Zoe's coming up, I do want to explain that to you. Because I do put this on all the certificates of the championship teams. Win today, walk together forever. It's a saying from an old hockey coach that used to coach my team, the Philadelphia Flyers, many, many years ago. That's enough out of you, Bill. Yeah, where are they? But you guys got to understand what that means, and I want you guys to understand that. Win today, walk together forever. I know as an athlete myself, and many athletes, and regardless of what you do in life, when you succeed together as a team, you will in fact walk together for the rest of your life. Meaning that when you girls get older, you're going to be talking about this. You're going to be talking about that last game when you guys were able to put that medal around your necks. Win today, walk together forever. And that's something you're going to be extremely proud of today, but equally proud of as you get older, to be our age, when you can think back when you were this age, when you guys won that medal. So cherish it, enjoy it, and it's something that's never going to go away. So Zoe Gagnon, to you as well, congratulations. Caitlin Van Krologen. Caitlin, well done, congratulations. Great job.
It's Van Krologen.
Oh, is it Van Krologen?
Van Krologen.
Gotcha. Sydney Rubanik. Congratulations, well done. Reagan Grano. Reagan, congratulations. Good job, well done. Can't tell you're a Grano. You just look just like one. Now, which one's your parents? Taylor Lazarak. Taylor, good job. Congratulations. Well done. Another one. You look just like your mom. Thank God. Logan Twarchuk. Logan, great job. Congratulations. You too, Logan. I see Ricky out there. Where is he? There he is. Karina Cloak. Cloaker. Well done. Congratulations, man. Great job. Kelia Legault. Good job, Kelia. Congratulations. Jacoby Oscom. You're back in the chamber again, eh? Congratulations. Great job. Well done. Tess Rowland. Tess, good job. Congratulations. You must have been the center, right? Kiana Cloak. Kiana, great job. Congratulations. Well done. Wendy Cloak. Get over here. Congratulations, Wendy.
Thank you.
Great job.
Thank you.
And another one of the coaches, Dana Caselge. Dana, great job. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
And the podium is yours if you want to say a few words. Well, before that, I'll let you get your thoughts, but before that, I'm going to, do you have a team captain, or should I present this to you?
You know what, let's present it to Kiana.
Kiana?
Yes.
Excellent. I do have a plaque here that's presented to the Port Colborne Hornets under 11 Adam girls basketball team, the Ontario Basketball Association Division 4 champions. We offer congratulations on behalf of members of City Council and all the citizens of the City of Port Colborne. Your dedication and your commitment to your team has inspired your community. Win today, walk together forever. Great job, guys. Congratulations. Well done.
I just wanted to say thank you very much to all the players and the parents for making sure they are all on time and out to all the practices and the games. A big thank you to Kiana for coming in and helping out. And a big thank you to the club as well. And thank you very much for having us here tonight. We really appreciate it.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to get a picture of you guys. Let's go. You right out of there. You got a bunch of pitches going to the semicircle here, just like you do in the pitches after the game, okay? Baller goes to the back, thrower goes to the top. There you go. Why don't you come over here? So you guys are going to hold the banner, right? Come on this side. Come on over this side. Now we'll get you. Danny, look over here. That's right. Get a nice position. Yeah, do that. You hold that. Yeah, don't go up there, right? You want to shoot it out? Just you two, just you two, just you two. That's what I'm saying. Just hold that. Okay? Real gold. Good job, guys. Now, Pam just informed me that Bart Butters used to be her soccer coach. Is that true, Barb?
That's many, many moons ago.
Many moons ago?
Many moons ago.
Now, you see what she did? Not only did you teach her how to play soccer, but she's
Beautiful, I'm so proud
awesome
of her.
coach. Just before I move on to the next presentation, folks, I do want to echo Dana's comments earlier, thanking not only the players, but also the parents. There's no question that the parents do, in fact, give a lot of their time getting their young ones back and forth to practices and games, traveling, the tournaments, etc. And I do want to take this opportunity to thank the parents, and I want you guys to stand up, okay, turn around, and give a great big thank you to moms and dads. I also want to take this opportunity to close this section of the presentations out to also recognize Todd and Carrie Schultz. Both Todd and Carrie are here this evening, and they do a lot of work for minor basketball, a lot of work, not only in front but also behind the scenes. So we are going to take an opportunity in the future to really recognize some of our organizations, especially those that make the organizations click. We couldn't do it tonight because we had so much on the agenda, but I see Todd and Carrie are here, and I do want to thank you as well for all the work that you do. Wonderful job. Okay, our next presentation, again, some great kids from South Niagara. We had an opportunity a few weeks ago, and I do want to thank B. Kenny, Councillor Kenny, who had attended on my behalf to this event. I couldn't make it because I was at the OBAs with my two daughters. But it is, again, a tradition that some of the great kids from South Niagara be recognized. For the past 6 years, the Welland Tribune has been organizing the search for great kids of South Niagara. From seeing the accomplishments of the students in Port Colborne over the past year through academics, sports, music, and community involvement, it does not surprise me that this year, once again, we found 4 of those kids here in Port Colborne, and they are here with us tonight. There are 3 categories and 2 age groups: against the odds, personal best, and cool to be kind, and the age breakdown is 6 to 12 and 13 to 18. I would personally like to thank those who took the time to nominate these great kids from our respective communities here in South Niagara, in particular within the city of Port Colborne. Their accomplishments are extraordinary and worthy of public recognition. First off, I would like to call upon and introduce Brianna Irvin. Is Brianna here? Brianna, come on up. Brianna Irvin is a semifinalist in the Cool to Be Kind, age 13 to 18 years old category. Brianna keeps a very, and I know this firsthand, a very busy schedule throughout the year, but still has time to help others. Brianna spearheaded a project called Music for Peace by hosting fundraising events where groups come to perform for free. She sells merchandise with the Music for Peace logo and donates all the proceeds to charities such as Ronald McDonald House, Make-A-Wish Foundation, and To Write Love on Her Arms, a nonprofit movement dedicated to presenting hope and finding help for people struggling with depression, addiction, self-injury, and suicide. She is the secretary of my youth council, the Mayor's Youth Advisory Council, and a great role model to her peers. On behalf of the entire council, but more importantly on behalf of the entire city, I want to congratulate Brianna and thank her for the contributions that she in fact extends to each and every resident of the city of Port Colborne. So I do have a certificate, Brianna, presented to you, Brianna Irvin, for being named a Great Kid of South Niagara semifinalist in the Cool to Be Kind 13 to 18-year-old. Congratulations on behalf of council and all the citizens of the city of Port Colborne. Your dedication and commitment to helping others are values admired and cherished in our community. Best wishes in your future. Well done. Great job, Brianna. I would now like to call upon Cassandra Campbell. Cassandra Campbell. Cassandra, a semifinalist in the Against the Odds 6 to 12 years category. Being born with a communication disability hasn't discouraged Cassie from getting her point across, and I know that firsthand because we had a little conversation last year, didn't we? Unable to speak until she was 6 years old, Cassie learned to sign at an early age, a process which opened the gateway to self-expression. She attended speech therapy sessions at the Niagara Peninsula Children's Center and now attends regular classes at St. John Bosco School. Cassie strives to succeed and gets the most out of life, whether collecting milk bags to be woven into sleep mats for the homeless at her Dane City Church or volunteering to sell tickets at the Wally Cup hockey tournament. Cassie is also the proud spokeschild for Community Living Ontario. According to Rita Smith from Community Living here in Port Colborne, Cassie is a very sensitive young lady and is always there to hold someone's hand if they are scared or feeling insecure. We can learn a lot from Cassie about patience and love, forgiveness and courage, and about joy and enthusiasm for life. Cassie, it's my pleasure, it's my privilege to offer to you our congratulations. To Cassie, you know you got the same name as a female hockey player, Cassie Campbell. to Cassandra Campbell for being named a Great Kid of South Niagara semifinalist in the Against the Odds 6 to 12 years old. Congratulations on behalf of members of City Council and all the citizens of Port Colborne. Your resilience to adversity and your positive attitude personify values admired and cherished by members of our community. Congratulations and best wishes in the future. I would now like to call upon Autumn Chevrette. Is Autumn here? Yes, she is. Autumn is a semifinalist in the Cool to Be Kind 6 to 12 category. Autumn, come on over here. I don't bite, huh? We are fortunate to have a young person like Autumn in our community. At just 11 years of age, she has already been actively participating in community leadership and helping others. She participates in the Terry Fox Run, and last year shaved her dad's head? How about your head? No? No? I am told she will be helping Nancy this year in 2012 with some new fundraising ideas. Actually, I'll make you a deal. This year you can shave my head. How's that?
Okay.
That cool?
Okay.
Okay, deal. Autumn, that's enough out of you. She's taking your job, Bill. Autumn has already donated her hair twice to Angel Hair and Help a Child Smile. I understand she's waiting until 2014 for her next donation. Is that true?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Cancer Relay for Life and our local food bank are also charities that Autumn supports. In school, she applies her natural strengths and abilities to help her fellow classmates. And I like this part right here. And don't think that this young lady will stop there. And don't let her fool you. She was one of the first junior black belts in jiu-jitsu in Port Colborne and now defends friends against bullying. Right on. Good job. Good job. That's awesome. Good job. So it's my pleasure, members of council, on your behalf and on behalf of all the residents of Port Colborne, to present to Autumn for being named a Great Kids of South Niagara semifinalist in the Cool to Be Kind 6 to 12 years old. Congratulations on behalf of members of City Council and all the citizens of Port Colborne. Your dedication and your commitment to helping others are values admired and cherished by our residents and our community. Well done. Congratulations. Great job. Very well done. Wonderful. If I can now call upon Nolan Linz. How you doing, bud? Everything all right? Yeah. Neighbor?
Pardon?
Neighbor?
Yeah.
Nolan is a semifinalist in the Cool to Be Kind 6 to 12 years old category. We are going to ask Nolan to do a 5-minute speech when we're done here, so he's prepared for it. No? There are two very special boys at St. Patrick's School. One is Elliot Gross, a developmentally delayed JK student, and the other is his best buddy, Nolan Linz, who is currently in grade 7. When Elliot started school, his mom was worried about how the other students would react to him and if he would have, in fact, any friends. Along came Nolan with his friendly smile and wonderful personality, and Elliot's mom's fears were set to rest. Nolan just sees Elliot as a sweet kid, a funny, energetic, and a good person to be around. I think the same can be said about Nolan. Nolan is very protective of his friends and treats everyone with the equal amount of respect that we as citizens all deserve. We can only hope that Nolan's attitude is infectious and spreads to everyone throughout this community and quite frankly around the world. He is a great role model and hopes to become a police officer someday. He truly exemplifies what a friend is all about. Nolan, it's my pleasure to congratulate you and to present you with this certificate, presented to you, Nolan Linz, for being named a Great Kid of South Niagara semifinalist in the Cool to Be Kids 6 to 12 years old age category. Congratulations on behalf of members of City Council and all the citizens of the City of Port Colborne. Your dedication and commitment to helping others are valued and admired and cherished throughout all the citizens in our community. Best wishes in your future and congratulations. Well done. Speech? To all you guys, great job, guys. Every one of you, you really do inspire not only the people that you're around every day, but quite frankly, you inspire all ages throughout the entire community. So everything that you're doing, keep up the great work, because it really does make a difference, not only for yourselves, but as well, more importantly, the people around you. Great job and congratulations to each and every one of you. Now another great kid. Where is he? I can see him over there. Yes, and your dad taught me in school. Grade 10 geography. And he's still teaching to this day, believe it or not. Lakeshore Catholic, Joe Norrie. But it's a pleasure to be here to recognize Joe's son. And I would like to call upon Dominic Norrie to come on up. And I would like to introduce members of council and the community to Dominic Norrie, the recipient of the Duke of Edinburgh Award. The Duke of Edinburgh's award was founded in 1956 by His Royal Highness Prince Philip, Duke of Edinburgh. The award came to Canada in 1963 and currently runs in 130 countries around the world. To date, almost 7 million young people have challenged themselves by participating in this award. The award program was developed to encourage all youth, ages 14 to 25, to be active, to participate in new activities and pursue their current interests in 4 different areas. No 2 awards are exactly the same. Youth are asked to do things that are of interest to them, have fun along the way, and receive recognition upon completion. They have to choose one activity that's in each of 4 categories, 4 areas of the program. Set a personal goal and then work to achieve it. The 4 areas are community service, to be a local hero by providing volunteer service to others and your community. Personal skill development, doing something different, develop a personal interest, social, or practical skill. Physical recreation, to gain a sense of achievement and good health through physical activity. Virtually any sport, dance, or fitness activity can count. Adventurous journey, to go on an expedition and find yourself. Develop self-reliance by planning, training, and completing a journey of discovery. For the gold level, they must also complete a residential project. Broaden your experiences through living and working with others who aren't your everyday friends for at least 5 days. Each of the 3 award levels has set a strength or a length of time. Bronze takes at least 6 months to complete. Silver is a minimum of 12 months, and a gold a minimum of 18 months. Dominic has achieved his first level, a bronze award. For his community service, Dominic worked with the Air Cadets, performing tasks such as selling poppies at Remembrance Day and assisting at the Niagara Antique Power Show with the parking of cars. For his personal skills development, I understand Dominic is quite an accomplished piano player, which takes many hours of practice and time. For his physical recreation, Dominic enjoys hiking, orienteering, and kayaking. And finally, for his adventurous journey, Dominic completed a solo hike at summer camp and also helped with a bush weekend for younger cadets. The Duke of Edinburgh Award is 2 parts. One is a pin, which Dominic is already wearing, and the second is the certificate, which I am pleased to present to you this evening. Dominic presented to you the recipient of the Duke of Edinburgh Award. Congratulations on behalf of each and every member of council and all the citizens of the city of Port Colborne. Your positive attitude and willingness to learn are values admired and cherished in our community. Congratulations and best wishes in your future. Well done. Thank you. I am also pleased to present to Dominic, this is heavy, presented to Dominic David Rhino Norrie, who has achieved the bronze standard of the Duke of Edinburgh's Award. I present to you this plaque. Dominic, congratulations. Well done. Well done. Any picture? Let me get a picture there. If I can also take this opportunity to congratulate Mr. and Mrs. Norrie. I see you over there. Well done. I know how much work that you have done to help Dominic along, not only within the community here, but also with the cadets. So great job to you two as well. And, of course, your younger sister. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention her as well. Great job. We're now going to move on, members of the gallery and council, to delegations. We have our first delegation this evening, who is Mr. Eric Nixon, the representative for Thorold Secondary School Council, District School Board of Niagara, Accommodation Review Committee, regarding the appreciation of City Council in support of maintaining Thorold Secondary High School. Mr. Nixon, if you come on up here, and the floor will be all yours. And while you're making your way up, we'll clear the chamber here. I thought you girls were going to stay for the whole meeting. Just give me a second, Mr. Nixon. We'll let everybody clear out. No songs, Chris? No, that's it. No? You have the guitar at home? Next time? Oh, we got Rochester coming up, eh? Yeah. Pardon me? Mr. Dixon, if you want to press the green button, the floor is yours. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and members of council. I was going to say members of the audience, remaining members of the audience. And good evening. My name is Eric Nixon, and I have been a committee member for Thorold on the District School Board of Niagara's Secondary School Accommodation Review for South Central St. Catharines and Thorold. And in case anyone here is unfamiliar with this issue, the DSBN has been reviewing declining elementary and secondary school enrollments across Niagara region. And often these reviews have resulted in schools being closed. The school that I represent, Thorold Secondary, has been under one such review. The committee was appointed last year to study this issue and to comment to the board. I was one of 4 voting members from Thorold, and 10 more were appointed from St. Catharines. I have come here to thank all of you, Mayor Badaway and the members of Port Colborne City Council, for your endorsement last February of a motion of interest in our efforts to preserve our community's only high school. Years ago, I was involved in an earlier effort to save an elementary school in St. Catharines. We tried to raise public concern at the time to warn people that they should pay attention to what we were going through, because we felt that enrollment-related reviews would someday be impacting every municipality and every neighborhood in the region. Unfortunately, our warnings at that time attracted little interest outside of our immediate school community. We fought hard, we lost, and the school was closed. However, 10 years later, I find myself in another review. They have a way of following you around. And I find that more than the times have changed. Today, there are thousands of people across Niagara region who have been affected by accommodation reviews. During the current review, I have received messages of support by telephone and email, not only from Thorold, but from Welland, Niagara Falls, and Niagara-on-the-Lake, just members of the public who are touched by this and wanted to call to say best wishes to you. The public today has a much greater appreciation of the need to be aware and to be involved. They know what's at stake. To this end, the interest expressed by your council, the councils of other neighboring municipalities, and the region of Niagara has been symbolically powerful. It has enabled public committees like ours to speak to an informed community and to ensure that the voice of the public is heard as schools in other Niagara communities come under review, which they inevitably will. In Thorold's case, we have argued for the retention of Thorold Secondary. If Thorold Secondary were to close, all 3 of the remaining high schools would be in one city, St. Catharines, where 3 other high schools already exist for a total of 6. Thorold, a city covering 83 square kilometers with a growing population currently numbering 18,000, would have not one. Intentionally or not, we feel this would contribute to the establishment of a hierarchy of students, families, and communities in that part of Niagara, with Thorold firmly entrenched in second class. The advantages of living in a city where high schools exist include, but are not limited to, briefer bus transit times, or even the ability to walk or bicycle between home and school, more free time for hobbies, homework, or part-time employment, greater access to school extracurricular activities, the involvement of the students' families in school activities, and the greater support and security that comes from going to a school that is not distant from home. Students living in a municipality with no high school would be deprived of these advantages. To create two tiers of students, advantaged and disadvantaged, would be, I am confident, alien to the values and mission of the District School Board of Niagara. Closing Thorold would also be in conflict with the inevitable southward migration of Niagara's growth and development, as directed by the Central Niagara Development Plan. This would not serve the best interests of Niagara economically or socially. Happily, however, I can tell you that when it came time to test, the DSBN proved willing to give serious consideration to our case. After the Accommodation Review Committee process had concluded, DSBN senior staff recommended that Thorold Secondary be put on the list of schools to be maintained in the review area. In other words, taken off the list of schools recommended for closure. Now, that recommendation will go before the Board of Trustees for a vote expected on the 12th of June. It is our belief that the growing desire for influence on these decisions, as expressed by your council, has been noticed by the DSBN, resulting in a new willingness to give reasonable public concerns more parity with administrative considerations when making these decisions. We understand that this post-baby boom adjustment to our school system is necessary, and that it will be by necessity difficult, and that it is not over yet. However, we are hopeful that there is an opportunity for us now to talk about how we can manage this adjustment better to ensure the least disruption to our homes, communities, and our schools. We can't eliminate, but hopefully we can mitigate. And what I'm saying, I guess, is that 10 years ago, I probably would not have been standing in a place like this, talking about this issue, because frankly, so very few people were interested at the time. So this is a welcome change. On behalf of my partners on the Thorold Accommodation Review Committee, I appreciate being given a few moments of your time this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. I appreciate your time this evening.
My pleasure.
Members of council, are there any questions of the presenter or to the presenter? With none?
I'll yield the
Thank you.
podium.
Appreciate it. Members of council, can I have a motion to receive the presentation, please? Councillor Steele? Councillor Elliott, questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? That will be carried. Thank you. We're now going to call upon Mr. Howe.
Your Worship, the District School Board of Niagara is not reviewing just Thorold and St. Catharines. It's also involved in looking at the entire region, all of its jurisdiction. I attended a little over a year ago, a presentation in Stevensville, and we have been following regularly and routinely with the District School Board of Niagara in respect of the potential for the same kind of issues facing Thorold that could be considered for the city of Port Colborne. And as early as or as late as most recent as this past month, we continue with our communications with some of the senior members of staff at the District School Board of Niagara to stay on top of what they're doing and what they're planning, so that if there is any kind of movement, and they're speaking about even perhaps nothing until 2013 or late this year, before they deal with something in South Niagara. We want to be able to be on top of it, and we will keep you informed, and we will continue to follow what the DSBN is doing in respect of schools as they may affect Port Colborne.
Thank you, Mr. Howe. Sure, come on up.
Only to say briefly that we learned a lot going through this process. It can be a little harrowing and intimidating at times, it was quite a lesson for us. And as people in other communities reached out to us, we would also, if our experience and our advice would be helpful, should anyone here find themselves in a similar situation, certainly we would never say no.
Great, wonderful. Thank you, Eric. Truly appreciate it. With nothing further, members of council will now move on to our next delegation. We have Kevin and Roseanne Wendling. With respect to a building permit, easement, servicing, and other development-related matters impacting a proposed residential residence at 212 Elizabeth Street here in the city of Port Colborne. Kevin, Roseanne, welcome.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of City Council and the very small audience that was mentioned before. I come tonight to really with two purposes of my presentation. First of all, just to, my family right now, my wife and I, we're trying to build a house. I think that's every person's dream to want to, we have a very large family, so we need a very large house, and we've come across some problems and some difficulties, and I believe that this is probably my next venue to kind of share the issues and the difficulties that we've been having. So tonight I want to make council aware of a number of issues that have occurred as we have tried to build a new residence on Elizabeth Street, and we're asking for support and compensation so that this project can move forward. Some background, first of all, our family, our residents of Port Colborne, my wife has lived here her entire life. You might remember her last name being LaFontaine. Her dad actually sat in the very seats you have been in, and he served the city very well, and my wife has continued that tradition. She basically talked me into living here for our lives. I have no choice. I'm here, but it's a good city. We enjoy our time here. Our kids are very involved with soccer and various things. I've taught at both Lakeshore Catholic and was principal at St. Therese a number of years ago. We are committed members of the community. We want to continue living here. And after a few years overseas, we returned to Port Colborne in 2011, last summer, with the intention of building a house. So approximately some background on this. My wife is an East Side girl, so she wants to live on the East Side near her mom, which is really nice. However, she fell in love with a couple of pieces of property, and for 10 years ago, one of those pieces of property, it's a piece of property that is between East Main Street and Killaley Street on Elizabeth. It's actually on the north side of the French School. I wish it was a small 50 by 100 foot lot. However, it's approximately 10 acres. Pardon? 9 acres. It's very big, it's very large. She really wanted it, so when it came up to be purchased, we started became a very long process of due diligence. Because the property is actually in some protected area with the Niagara Peninsula Conservation Authority, we could not just think we're going to buy this piece of land and put a house on. So when the property first came up, we said we need to do some due diligence. So our first step before we put a purchase or any kind of bid on the land, we came to City Hall, we talked with the planner at the time, city staff, Chuck Miller, and said, here's this piece of property, can we build a house? He said, no, that needs to be a subdivision. It's a big piece of property. We don't want that to be just a house. So my wife and I very sadly said no. We built a house on the west side, and we thought that was over. However, a few years later, we discovered, actually with a sitting member of council, that that was not the case. We definitely could have purchased the land and built a house. So we said to ourselves, look, we really want to live here. We want to live on that side. So therefore, we're going to do our full due diligence. Even though the property may never come up for sale, we're going to do our due diligence. And we're going to do a lot of it because if that property does come up for sale, this is a place that we want to live, if we can even have a house there. Well, what did that process include? Well, we decided we would again meet with city officials and ask some very, very specific questions. This is the advice we were given from the member of council at the time in 2001. Can we build a single residence? Will there be services to the lot, environmental constraints, and other constraints? First of all, when we had another meeting with city staff at the time, they said, yes, you can build a single residence. Were there service to the lot? Yes. There was both water and sewer, we were told, on Wellington Avenue and on Elizabeth Street. to the areas coming out. And you can see from the documentation I gave you actually what the land looks like. However, there were some complications. Environmental constraints, definitely. The city at that time said to us, city officials, you must go through the Niagara Peninsula Conservation Authority. You must get permission of them before we can even issue a building permit. And they said, and they pulled out some very old documents from the 70s, they're actually, this is part of the land that will be expropriated if we ever build a tunnel underneath the middle bridge. I've heard about this. My wife told me about this. It sounds really neat, but I don't think it'll ever happen. However, it's still on the books with MTO. So you have to take that in consideration as well. So we contacted the Niagara Peninsula Conservation Authority. We had some initial talks. Even though we didn't own the property, we had the talks. We told them approximately where we wanted to build, the size of the house, went through all those things with them, and they said, at the time, yes, you can build that house on the Elizabeth Street side of the lot. This is it shouldn't be a difficulty or a problem. But, you know, they always put the but in, reserve the right that when you go for the building permit, you have to get a letter of permission from us. MTO, same thing. The gentleman at the time there, Alexandre, and I can't remember his last name, told us the same thing. We gave him an idea of what we wanted to build. So in our mind, we had done all our due diligence. We had been to the city. We'd asked if we could build it. There were services, environmental, MTO, no other considerations, no other problems. Due diligence we thought was in the bag, so to speak. So if the lot would come up again, we definitely would want to purchase it. Well, in July of 2008, we moved overseas. In October 2008, the land came up for sale. We had a few people call us. We were very excited. We said, we're going to buy it. We had done a due diligence. We figured there would be no difficulties, no problems. We went forward. When we returned and then the following summer, because we came back to Port Colborne every summer while we were overseas, we went into the city to ask the exact same questions. We wanted to be sure. We'd already bought the lot, but we wanted to be sure. So again, can we build a single residence? Yes. Services to the lot? Yes, on the Elizabeth side and the Wellington side. Environmental constraints? Same as before, and the added bonus, you can't chop a tree down. You cannot remove a tree unless you have a building permit. So we could not even do the beginning of getting the land ready for a house, whether it's 2-3 years down the road. It is what it is. Okay? So we took that, we noted that, and we also were told that the environmental constraints were getting stronger and stronger. And so we made sure that in future talks, we definitely were talking to the Conservation Authority. Other constraints, same MTO problem or MTO plan. I won't call it a problem. So again, yes, single residence, yes, services. Environmental constraints, again, all those things are listed there. And again, because of the tunnel plan, we would definitely have to go through MTO. We had decided we were going to stay overseas a few more years, so when we returned, we would begin the process. And the process would be, what did we need to have a building permit? During the second part of due diligence, we had a meeting with Dan Aquilina at that point. And all these things were presented at the table. There were maps on the table. There were lots of information gathered. As you can tell from the detail I'm giving you, there was probably an hour plus discussion. We wanted to make sure we had all the due diligence. We didn't want any surprises. We didn't want any problems. So those answers to those questions were very important. So important, that's why we asked them twice. So what we were told, though, at the time of application for the building permit, all the documentation would need to come to the city, as per usual. So in summer of 2011, we returned to Port Colborne. We began to make plans, house plans. We began to look at all the details that you need to have a house. And this spring, after a long winter of a lot of planning and things like that, we put all of our information into the city to say, hey, we're ready to build our house. Everything should be good. We got our letter from the NPCA. We got the permission from MTO. Building permit went in, but our builder was asked to return. Actually, we went through a process of finding a builder. Our builder was asked to return. There were no services to the property. In fact, prior to 6 months ago, there was neither water nor sewer to the property. However, with the water pumping station that's currently being built or finished on Elizabeth Street, there was the possibility of water being accessed through that. We were extremely disappointed, extremely upset. 6-7 years of due diligence, 6-7 years of a lot of time and effort and energy. However, there is a solution. I might add, sorry, let me just go back. I might add to that as well. I had a further meeting after we couldn't get the building permit with Dan Aquilina again. It was Dan as well as 2 engineers, I believe, in the room at the time. And when I brought up the services, Dan once again agreed that, yes, there were services, but he had to be corrected by the engineers in the room. So Mr. Aquilina again said to us, yes, indeed, there were services, but that was not the case. When I spoke with the gentleman and the builder, it appeared that there was a possible solution to it, that of a septic bed, which with the Niagara Peninsula Conservation Authority could take a very long time to do and probably be very expensive and very costly, or a sanitary hookup further down Elizabeth Street at the French School for $20,000. These were great surprises to us, things we did not count on nor budget for within our plans, and we also had to go back to make sure our house plans and everything else that we had done previously did not have to be adjusted or moved on. So that's the first problem we had with our property. We were led to believe that there were services to the lot by a number of visits to City Hall. We were led to believe that there would be no problem with hooking up into the city, water and sanitary. Even though we had done all kinds of other due diligence around other issues, this issue now is going to cost us approximately $20,000. I would mention the fact, too, that the initial advice we were given in '98 actually cost us $30,000 with the price of the property going up as well. However, that's water under the bridge. The $20,000 is really what is really a problem for us right now. Another complicating factor is 2011, the Health and Wellness Center was being constructed, and it's just down the street from us. One of the things that had to be done with the construction of the Health and Wellness Center is the pumping station would need to be moved further down. One day coming home in December from work, both my wife and I saw construction occurring on our property. That night we went down and we looked at it, and a hole approximately 4 meters away from the sidewalk, which of course part of the sidewalk was on our land. We found that out from the plan, from the drawings that were done by the surveyor. But further into the property in the front, there was a piece of equipment being put in by city staff. There was fencing around it and heavy equipment on top. That Friday the 19th of December, I went down to the city and said, what's going on? Why are people on our land? What's happening? Because there was no easements negotiated, no permission sought by the city, and after talking to the site supervisor, they told me I should speak to city staff, either Chris Lee or Jim, if I say it wrong, Hoopinen. The following day, I went down and spoke with both of them. I was told by Mr. Lee that indeed an easement had been proposed and permission had been gained. I said, not a chance. He said it was done 6 months ago. I said, that would be impossible. I said, we have been in the country that long, but none of that was done. So I will say this. I spoke and I emailed people. The first thing I requested is all heavy equipment please be parked off our site, off our property that night. That was done. However, the construction continued and I began emailing, you have a copy of the emails in your package, the different people. The city blamed the region because the region was supposed to negotiate the easement. The region blamed the city back, saying they weren't given enough information. It went back and forth between the two of them. This went on for 3 to 4 weeks, as you can see by the dates on the email. Finally, I had to ask Councillor Doucette to get involved, and at that point, things began to roll, and Mr. Aquilina took charge and basically said, we will get the paperwork together to look at negotiating an easement. At no time was an apology made. At no time did anyone say, oops, sorry. At no time did anyone really have any concern for the fact that trespassing occurred and that there were trespassing occurred and that they were on the property. Nobody really said anything to us, and our emails weren't even answered. All I got was, it's the region's fault, and all I got from the region is, it's the city's fault. Work continued on our land, and the promise that in the spring our land would be graded properly. Dan Aquilina informed me they would have the legal papers done. It was noted. I also noted that on our survey done, as I mentioned before, there was also problems with the sidewalk. So when the easement would have to be negotiated, the sidewalk, which was also protruding onto our land, would also have to be dealt with as well. On April 20th, when I talked to city staff here about the fact that the water and the sewer were not available on the Elizabeth piece part of our property, I also talked to them about the easement and the sidewalk and other things as well. And after that, it was obvious that I needed to come to this group to basically discuss the matter. That basically no support or any kind of aid could be given to us at that time, that basically you need to deal with this yourself. You want the building permit. Really, the meeting was not, it was very professionally done. However, no support was given to us in any way, shape, or form. And basically, we were asked, please sign the easement because the papers are here and it's, if you want to get it checked by a lawyer, that's fine, but we want to move this forward. The problem is now that with the sanitary, if we're going to hook up to them, we probably also will need to negotiate an easement with the city in order to make sure that our sewer can be connected into the school. So there'll be a number of easements that need to be negotiated, as well as support, hopefully, that can be given as well. What am I requesting from council? Support and/or compensation that the newly built residents will have access to city water and sanitary. This was said to be true on 3 occasions. I think as a taxpayer, it's something I can expect. I think as a taxpayer, it's something that if you're going to buy a property and do due diligence, you would need to expect. If a person putting in 100 houses in Port Colborne was doing that and asking it, it would be a different kind of meeting, but if that promise was made, it would be expected in return. This would include negotiating easements, paying for hooking into city services and costs that would be beyond the normal costs. Secondly, we're waiting to build our house. This has been a long process. I would ask council to please issue immediately a foundation building permit. This would allow us to clear the trees and begin putting the foundation into the ground. These other things that need to be negotiated are important, but at least it would give us a head start and get us going so we can build our house. I know these other things can be negotiated. I'm very confident with past dealings with the city of Port Colborne and many of the members of council here that you're a good, fair people and that something can be done to negotiate this out. However, as someone with a large family who would like to get their house going and moving on with their life, I really would like this building permit issued as soon as possible. From what I understand, we could get a building permit tomorrow for the full house. The only thing that's stopping it is the hook into the sewer or sanitary. We've done all our due diligence and paperwork. It would be good if we could move forward. Finally, thirdly, to direct city staff not to do the final grade. Please don't. We got a big mound of dirt on our property, as you see in the pictures. Don't touch it. We want to build a house. Don't spend $2,000 pushing dirt around when we're going to have to redo it a few months later. You haven't done it, and I've asked that it not be done, and I appreciated that, so hopefully that can continue. And finally, an apology. Call me old, call me traditional. Somebody makes a mistake, you say you're sorry. I'm a principal at an elementary school. 2 kids come in and 1 kid says it's an accident. The first thing I say to the kid is, did you say you were sorry? We haven't gotten any. I understand the world today. An apology is, attributing blame. Some people say it's a legal term, whatever. No time, nowhere did I feel any kind of compassion or empathy to the fact that this plight had been going to us. Our counselor is the only one who kind of stepped up for us and helped us through this process. And I thank Mr. Doucette for doing that. Unfortunately, a lot of goodwill that I've developed with the city over the years and the programs that they supported, really, I can't say it always has occurred in the building department now, just because of these situations that have occurred. You dug a hole in my property, just say you're sorry. That's all. Finally, as long-standing members of the community, we believe we haven't been treated fairly. Prior to the purchase of the property and prior to applying for a building permit, we performed many hours of the diligence that's required to avoid these kinds of difficulties. However, the difficulties were caused by the communication of incorrect information by the city, by city staff specifically. As far as city actions on December 2011 and their inaction prior to December, we are totally unable to understand why this occurred. No explanation can really be given to me of why that occurred. What kind of financial impact are we looking at? The additional cost of the property, like I said, that is over 10 years old. The cost to tie into the sewer, time, I'm looking at the last one. We've waited 3 weeks to put a shovel in the ground, and unfortunately, we don't want to wait another 3 weeks, 3 months, or 3 whatever. It just doesn't seem right, just doesn't seem fair. We believe our request will help solve the problem, and this can all be solved in a reasonable manner. So thank you for your time and consideration on this issue.
Thank you, Kevin. First off, before I go to questions or comments, Mr. Howell, any comments?
Your Worship, there is a lot of information and a lot of he said and she said, and I've given direction and we're getting information now from all our departments. And I'm reviewing it, and Mr. Mayor, I respectfully request that the matter be referred to staff in accordance with the bylaw so that I can deal with this expeditiously in respect of all the matters and the issues. It may be some negotiation and it may be some simple answers. once I can sort it out. And then, Your Worship, if there's a report required coming back to council, we bring it back.
Thank you. Members of council, are there any questions or comments? Councillor Doucette?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Just a question maybe through you to Mr. Heil. What are the timeframes are we looking at to get the staff back and to get it? I understand that there are limitations, but I'd like to know some kind of a time frame just to help out if that's possible.
Mr. Howe?
If it's possible. I don't know if it is.
I don't know, Your Worship, until I can look at the files.
Councillor? That's fine. Further questions or comments, members? Members of council, I'm looking for direction. Councillor Steele?
Take the recommendation of the CAO and refer it to his office.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder to that, please? Councillor Bodnar? Are there any questions or comments to that recommendation? Oh, Councillor Butters?
I believe the CAO used the word expeditiously, and I would think that he will do his best to see that that is so this family can move forward.
Mr.
Thank
Howe?
you.
It'll be a priority for me, sir.
Thank you. Any further questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? That will be carried. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, one further question. One thing I've learned from my time in my business of education, when parents come to me, I always give them a set timeline. I know expeditiously is a really nice adjective to say as quick as possible. However, whenever I send an email, whenever I send something out, I say, can you get back to me, or I will get back to that person by the end of the week. When can I expect a call from City Hall to know what's occurred next, or when the next thing will be occurring?
Mr. Howe?
I'm going to tell you this week, if I may, Your Worship, perhaps tomorrow or the next day, but as quickly as I possibly can.
So if I do not hear you from Friday, who should I call?
Your Worship, I will make a commitment. I will call.
Vance, I got your email address,
I know you do.
and I know where your kids go to school. No, just kidding.
I will contact the delegation before this week is out.
Thank you,
And I
sir.
will give them my telephone number, my cell phone number, so they can call me directly if I don't call you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Roseanne.
Thank you.
Thank you, members of council. We'll now move on to our final delegation this evening. We have the St. Catharines City Councilor, Mr. Peter Secord, of the St. Catharines Governance Committee regarding the committee's activities. And I don't see Peter here today. Peter's not here with us today, so we're now going to move on to my report. I'm surprised Peter's not here this evening. Members of council, there's been a great deal of attention given to providing equitable access to health care in the South Niagara with an intention to enhance overall regional health care within the Niagara region, in particular the south part of the region. And I know there's been a lot of activities happening throughout the past couple of weeks, and I thought it best to bring you up to date on some of those activities versus having to read about it in the paper on a daily basis. Members, as mentioned at our last council meeting, collaboration is critical, and I think we all recognize that. And I do want to thank Councillor Kenny for coming on out to the South Niagara Healthcare Corporation meeting this past Monday. I think you can see firsthand during that meeting how much collaboration does help with respect to putting out or putting in place the different programs in terms of the best interests of South Niagara. But members of council, moving forward, our entire team is focused on delivering equitable access to health care and ensuring it is in fact done in an efficient manner. We do look forward to working in collaboration with representation from all South Niagara municipalities, most importantly, physician representation from those individual municipalities. We have a desire to develop a critical and acute care pathway that is based on best practices and builds on the work we have already completed here in the city of Port Colborne. We absolutely must develop an appropriate and equitable critical care pathway that meets best practice standards, STEMI protocols, and attracts physicians that will want to practice here in the Niagara region. Although we've addressed the primary care needs and have developed an excellent clinical services plan that will meet the needs of the city of Port Colborne, we must collectively work on a plan to meet the further and overall needs of all the citizens of South Niagara. Dr. Kevin Smith, the provincially appointed supervisor to the Niagara Health System, has recommended a new South Niagara hospital that will also include the northeasterly community of the city of Niagara Falls. This is a strategic plan that will require input from our healthcare providers, the health minister, our local LIN, the Health Integration Network, the Local Health Integration Network, and most importantly, our residents. Those residents not only from the city of Port Colborne, but across all southern municipalities. For example, we need to know where gaps exist at the new North St. Catharines Hospital with respect to providing equitable access to care. We are quite certain we perceive those gaps to be in many aspects of care, which is why we have explored other options that can be looked at for the ensuing 6 or more years it will take for this process to be undertaken. We have seen this happen in other communities, members of council, where promises are made for new hospitals and they don't come to fruition. We must be heard as one voice to the Ministry of Health and Long-Term Care on what our needs in fact are and where the gaps in care exists and where they're going to occur. With respect to Dr. Smith's recommendations for a standalone UCC model of care, this is a model of care that works well when we have addressed our primary care model of delivery and work diligently to recruit physicians and allied health. As our citizens become healthy, they will not have to access emergency departments for acuity of care as many currently do. We are working on program alignment and collaborative measures with our interprofessional care virtual family health team, and this primary care reform will lend itself well with the UCC that is being proposed by Dr. Kevin Smith. We are extremely fortunate to have high-caliber physician leadership here in the city of Port Colborne to undertake additional projects that enhance and improve the delivery of health care. We know that they will continue to be a strong voice of leadership as we in fact move forward. As our electronic medical record system becomes connected, we support this model as long as acute care availability is equitable and timely according to best practice standards. From day one of the introduction of the Hospital Improvement Plan, the HIP, we have collaborated with our healthcare providers to ensure that the best possible clinical services plan delivery model would be developed and that the ministerial bodies would accept this plan. We expect that a second new Niagara hospital will serve all of Niagara, not just South Niagara, better. However, it must be done in a strategic manner, and we must keep in mind that this is only a recommendation. Ultimately, it is up to the Minister of Health and Long-Term Care to move this forward. And members of council, until then, it remains the status quo, unfortunately, for Niagara, in particular, South Niagara. And the status quo is unacceptable. It is imperative that the Ministry of Health and Long-Term Care makes an immediate decision. If she is not prepared to do so, at the very least, it would be my suggestion to bring forward her expected deliverables for us to follow through with to ultimately enable her to make that very decision. In the meantime, we carry on as we have. Renovations must be completed at the Port Colborne UCC site, as we have measurably brought forward a clinical services plan model in a collaborative manner which integrates primary care with hospital restructuring. This model can be utilized throughout South Niagara, hence the reason for consistent collaboration. There is a greater need today to collaborate to establish best practices to clinical pathways for all of South Niagara. We have established the South Niagara Healthcare Corporation to be a venue for this collaboration. We met last Monday with a healthy turnout of interested individuals. A brief overview of specific initiatives was provided with respect to the interim report from Dr. Kevin Smith, keeping in mind a need for us all to understand the recommendations, more importantly the implications of those recommendations, as well as our intention to continue our focus, recognizing best practices and establishing critical care pathways based on those best practices that ensures equitable access to health care for our residents. Our intent is to align primary care with our acute care center, our UCC, and in the future, the hospital. through continued collaboration. Our direction, goals, and objectives continue to evolve. This is not work that has a completion date attached to it. Our intent is to stay the course. Although we believe Dr. Smith is in fact in the right direction, we still have work to do. And while the work, as mentioned above and earlier, continues, we look forward to contributing to the discussion our thoughts on a new South Niagara site, in particular, its location and the location of a standalone urgent care center. Once again, members of council, focusing on best practices and establishing critical care pathways based on those best practices that ensure equitable access to health care for all South Niagara residents. The South Niagara Healthcare Corporation will be hosting a strategic planning exercise on June 4th to receive input into the process of both primary care and our new hospital, and solidifying a South Niagara Clinical Services Plan model in a collaborative manner which integrates primary care with hospital restructuring. As well, we are currently collaborating with our healthcare partners just a few minutes away across the border to establish a cross-border partnership, which at this time must be explored as a possibility to ensure that all South Niagara has equitable access to critical and acute care while this second site is being carefully considered. We have met with these partners and are ready to present to Dr. Smith as an alternative pathway that meets best practice standards, is fiscally responsible, and ensures that sustainability is possible for all of South Niagara. The Niagara Health System continues to have a great deal of difficulty in establishing appropriate critical care pathways due to our unique geography here in the southern part of the Niagara region. We recognize the relationship that Windsor has with Detroit, and this has worked well. We have in fact met with Clyda Health in Buffalo and liaised with Dr. Gordon Vale and the provincially appointed supervisor in Windsor, as they have a relationship with Henry Ford Hospital in Detroit that addresses these very needs, critical care needs, and when necessary, in an expeditious manner that ensures all STEMI protocols are met. We are looking at fiscally responsible alternatives that have in fact been used in the past, and our partners in Windsor have collaborated and are very willing to assist us in this initiative. We anticipated this is the supervisory role of Dr. Kevin Smith, and thus believe that we can work together on a clinical services plan in a collaborative manner with the LHIN, the Ministry of Health and Long-Term Care, the Niagara Health System, and all the municipalities affected here in the southern portion of Niagara. We must, absolutely must, develop a plan that meets the mandates of all ministerial bodies while at the same time addressing our unique geography and fiscal challenges. Healthcare, members of council, as you know, is evolving, and we are prepared to roll up our sleeves and develop a process that will benefit all of Niagara, not just South Niagara. So with that, members, I know it's a lot to digest in one report, but as you can well imagine, there's been a lot of work being done. I do credit most of all Joanne Ferriccioli, our Director of Health Services here in the city, as well as the docs here in Port Colborne. They've been working extremely hard, led by Dr. Remington, but each and every GP, some of the specialists across the region. We're expecting some docs from Welland, Fort Erie, and Pelham to come in and join the group to truly collaborate on those interests being met and those best practices being recognized, not only for South Niagara, but for the entire region. So again, I know it's a lot to digest, but by all means, if you have any questions, you can raise them this evening, or just simply give me a call and we can chat after the meeting. No questions? We'll now move on to the Regional Council's report. Regional Councilor Barrick is not in attendance this evening, but by all means, if you have any questions for the Regional Councilor, I would be more than happy to attend to them for you this evening. You guys are easy tonight. We'll now move on to Councilor's items and new business. Members of Council, I have Councilor Bodner, Councilor Steele, Councilor Danch. Councilor Bodner? Sorry, you got the brightness in your eyes, do you?
Thank you very much. Through you to, I guess, Mr. Hanson. I just wondered whether we could kick in the tree trimming on Shirkson Road and Empire Road as the summer progresses and many large motorhomes are going down those roads when the leaves and branches start to grow in, they tend to drift over the center line to try to avoid them, so I wonder whether you might look at that like was done last year.
Mr. Hanson?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, we'd be happy to take a look at that issue. We did it last year, did some trimming on those two particular roads, and we'll take a look at it again this year.
Thank you, Mr. Hanson. Counselor?
One more issue, I guess I'll direct it to Mr. Hanson, but whoever can do it. That rail crossing at Miller and Forks that they repaired a number of years ago, and they did a great job when they repaired it. It was probably the best it's done in years, but it's certainly deteriorated, and it's getting now where you have to slow down really, really slow to creep across that thing. One of the big rubber pads, it looks like, was torn up. I wonder whether you might talk to who's ever responsible for that and see if we can't get that started to be repaired.
Mr. Hanson?
Mr. Mayor, that's a regional road crossing, so I'll be happy to contact Mr. Cousins at the region,
Great.
pass that on to him.
Thank you. Thank you, Counselor Bodnar. Counselor Steele?
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to Ron Hanson. Ron, is it possible to have Dwight and Paul put a bench in front of Luigi's Barber Shop? In speaking with Paul today, he suggested that they do have it in stock. It's the same style that sits in front of Dr. Runge's office. So if council doesn't have any objection that they've inquired about it. They had a bench a number of years ago. I think it deteriorated, was removed, and nothing was replaced, so they've asked me to see if they can get another one back.
Thank you, Counselor. Mr. Hanson?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we'd be happy to take a look at that. I'm sure we have one in stock, so we'd certainly put that in place.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hanson. Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Danch?
I guess I'll direct mine to Mr. Aquilini. I had the opportunity to eat on West Street the other day, and I got my parking ticket, and it's totally unlegible. My wife was at the hospital, and I've got a ticket from there. It's completely legible, so possibly we get a look at the little anchor there, because right now I think you get a ticket from last week, just leave it on your dash, and no one could charge you because you can't read nothing anyway. So if you could look into that for me, please, I'd appreciate it.
Thank you, Counselor. Mr. Aquilina?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Definitely, Mr. Danch, we will take a look at that, and hopefully we will be able to correct the problem. But as I mentioned, bring that ticket to myself, and we'll take care of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Thank you, Mr. Aquilina. Any further questions or comments, members? Counselor Demaray.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to, I think, Ron Hanson, possibly. I wonder who is responsible for the benches that carry advertising, sitting, such as in Food Basics parking lot, at the corner of Steele and Kalali West. There's another one. They have garbage areas attached to them, and those are overflowing. Who's responsible for maintaining those?
Mr. Hanson?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. A number of years ago, the city entered into an agreement with the company that supplies those benches. In fact, in the agreement, that company is responsible for the removal of the waste and so on out of it. So we would have to take a look tomorrow and contact the appropriate people to have them cleaned up.
Thank you, Mr. Hanson. Further new business, members? Members of staff, are there any updates? Mr. Howe?
Your Worship, tomorrow is May the 15th, and in accordance with the direction of council, there will be a number of studies that should be filed with the city from MMN Limited, representing the consulting company for Nyon Oil. We've asked for all the studies that they've got to be supplied to us in a PDF format, so we will put them on the website for full public access and disclosure. We will also try to get copies to you depending on how thick they are. Also, Your Worship, we proposed that the public meeting that they would be required to attend to speak to and make presentation to the public would be June the 13th. That's a Wednesday evening in here. It would be a special meeting of council, Your Worship, with approval of council. We would have them come forward and do their presentation of what we understand the use is going to be, give or take some minor details. I hope nothing too detailed. That's currently the plan for June the 13th. Our intention, if council approves June the 13th, the Wednesday night, we will require the legal counsel for Nyon to send notice to everybody on that list, all 288 persons, plus the ones that were added at both of the Ontario Municipal Board hearings and further that we would require them to place an advertisement in the newspaper so that people would be able to come to this room in a special council, sort of a planning forum, not planning, it's still a council meeting, and they would make presentation and the public would have an opportunity to make comment or to ask questions of what they would be presenting. We would probably try also, Your Worship, to try and get them to set up during the daytime so that people could come early and see what they've got and what they're presenting, and they could speak to an individual in particular. Some people feel uncomfortable in a crowd and may want to speak one-on-one. So if June the 13th is all right, Your Worship, we will confirm with Nyan. We will ask the clerk to set up a special meeting of council for that presentation for June the 13th.
Thank you, Mr. Heil. Members of council, any questions or comments? Councillor Steele.
I will not be there that evening. I'm away.
Thank you, Councillor. No further questions or comments, members. We'll now move on to the adoption of the minutes of the 12th meeting regular of Committee of the Whole, dated April 23rd, 2012. Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Bodner, Councillor Elliott. Questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? That would be carried. Thank you, members. We'll now move on to items considering separate discussion. We have a few items here, members. I am going to move on to the item that I see some people here in the gallery for first, if you don't mind, so they don't have to sit here and be here for all the items, and that would be item 10. Councillor Steele.
Thank you, Your Worship. I know there will be discussion on this, but I also bring this up for Councillor Elliott's conflict. That the Department of Planning and Development Report number 201236, subject noise bylaw exemption, Port Cares, 92 Charlotte Street, be approved, recommending. The Council of the Corporation of the City of Port Colborne hereby grant a temporary permit to exempt Port Cares from Section 4.3 of Bylaw 458811904 on the following terms and conditions. The temporary permit is for the period of Wednesday, May 16th, 9 a.m. to 11 p.m., Thursday, May 17th, 9 a.m. to 11 p.m., and Friday, May 18th, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. inclusive. The permit is applicable only to the production, reproduction, and amplification of sound in connection with this event. That the bunkie not be stored, parked, or used for living purposes at 92 Charlotte Street, and further that the bunkie be relocated in an area that complies with the Parks Bylaw, zoning bylaw, and other applicable legislation.
Thank you, Councillor. Do I have a seconder to that, please? Councillor Desmarais. We have a full speakers list here. I'm going to start off with Councillor Steele.
I did bring it forward for Councillor Elliott's conflict, but I know other councillors want to speak to this, so I'll let them speak first.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Kenny.
Thank you, Your Worship. I guess I'd ask then for special leave of council. We have some members of Port Cares here, and I'd certainly like them to speak to the issue before we discuss it, if I could have leave of council to allow them to do that.
Great. Thank you, Councillor. Members of the council, I need a seconder to that motion, please. Councillor Doucette, questions or comments to that? All those in favor? Opposed? That would be carried. Pam, come on up. Good evening.
Good evening. Mayor Badway, councillors, and staff. In speaking to this issue on this fundraiser for Port Cares, I'd like to assure everyone that in modeling this event after a similar event held in other municipalities, and in holding our first successful fundraiser last year that raised over $20,000. It was always our intent to work within the bylaws of the City of Port Colborne, so that we could make this event a successful event as it was last year. And it was, we did not, it was very successful, and we did not have any complaints last year. We applied for a noise bylaw exemption or permit, and we have complied and talked to all of the neighbors. I come with a certificate of insurance naming the City of Port Colborne on this, and we also have security in place as we did last year. This event on Thursday night, we do have a children's program that goes until 8 o'clock. That would be the latest that we would be doing anything. We have some school choirs during the day and so on. It will not be any different than it was last year, which we had had the same fundraiser. The unit that we have does not have any washroom facilities, electricity, cooking. Basically, it is a basic structure. Last year, we had the privilege of having the yurt. This year, we have a wooden structure that has been named a bunkie. And so it will be run very similar to the way it was run last year. And we appreciate the time that has been spent talking about this by the city staff and advice that we have been given. And we do appreciate the city's support, because in running this fundraiser, we are attempting to balance our budget like everyone else does. And we certainly need to do fundraising because of the shortfall and underfunding of some of the programs and services that we run in this city, and just as other services that try to make this community a better place. And so we would ask your consideration in allowing this event, which needs visibility, in order to make it a success. And so we are open to questions and consideration.
Thank you. Members of council, are there any questions of the presenter? Bien, I'm going to go back to you if you want to carry on.
Thank you, Your Worship. In an email that we received, we were told that discussion started about this event back in February. I guess February, it says early March. So I guess I find it kind of ironic that you held the event last year with obviously no permits or anything, and everything went well.
No.
Because were you allowed this parking, this camping facility in the yurt last year?
We applied for a permit last year. The only difference is just this year is a cost involved, but we did have a permit last year as well.
So
The
you had
noise exemption.
A
We had
noise
the noise
exemption.
just well, yeah, the noise exemption is not what we're talking about, I guess,
Councillor,
because
if I can just finish
yeah.
off an answer to that question. Mr. Howe?
Worship, I don't believe there was a permit required or sought for anything except noise.
Correct.
Was it noise last year? If they ask Mr. Aquilino.
Mr. Aquilino?
Mr. Mayor, my recollection was last year there was no request for a noise variance. This year we have a request for a noise variance, and hence the report this evening.
Thank you. Councillor?
I believe, and the reason that we had to do one this year was because there was a fee attached this year, and so our actual application was for the exemption of the fee to the noise bylaw. Correct.
Councillor?
I have no more questions of the presenters, but I do have a couple questions of staff. Thank you. So then I would ask staff, as the speaker alluded to, fundraising events are also allowed in other cities. In fact, in Niagara Falls, there's a fundraiser called Project Share, where for 3 consecutive years, their municipality, where the zoning does not allow it, camping, as we call it, camping for 3 days, was allowed. So is there, I guess, a way to allow an exemption so this doesn't come through to us every year? Is there a way that we can amend our bylaw, which I believe the CAO told me it was 1982. Is there a way we can amend our current bylaw to allow this to happen? I think this is a great thing. It's the money that they raise for 3 days is phenomenal, and I certainly support something like this, but I understand that there are rules and regulations to everything, but how do we get over that so that they can carry on with this and we don't get this at the final hour?
Mr. Aquilino?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's a very simple solution, and one we will actually conduct. It's having a general amendment to our zoning bylaw that would allow charitable or philanthropic, thank you very much, events to occur along throughout the entire city. We will get into the specifics of what that actually entails, and it's something that we put through the zoning bylaw, so these requests won't have to come through council. We'll still have to deal with the noise variance request through council, separate process, But for the actual permission under the zoning bylaw, that's something that we will embark on doing, so this will not come back to council in the future.
So, just to cut to the chase, okay, so what I would suggest, Councillor Kenny, that you may want to consider doing, and I emailed you this over the weekend, is simply to look at number 1 and 2 and move that forward, eliminate number 3, and put that as number 3. And put that forward as a motion, and in fact, get a seconder, and we can then go to questions from there.
Thank you. Yes, because when I know you told me there's rules and regulations when I sent you that email that I was supporting it, and I certainly know that. So we have a recommendation in front of us. So I guess, do we have to vote on that recommendation, or can I make an amendment to that recommendation?
All we can do is make an amendment to delete 3, put in place of 3, Mr. Aquilina's recommendation, if I can finish, to allow Mr. Aquilina's recommendation to go forward as 1, 2 noise, 3 in terms of the exemption. That would also amend the bylaw moving forward, so that therefore staff would then be able to do this in the future without having to come to council. Okay, Mr. Aquilina, any further comments?
No, that's absolutely correct, Mr. Mayor. That's what we will enable, and as I mentioned, so this doesn't have to come back to council.
Thank you. Did you want to move that?
I will certainly move that since it's 2 days from the event. I guess I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Councillor. Do I have a seconder to that, please? Councillor Danch. Are there any questions or comments to that motion, members?
So we have amendment first, correct?
With the amendment first, right. Councillor Doucette, go ahead. Yeah.
Through you to either Mr. Aquilina or Mr. Heil. That means that if we do that, this event can go on and everything's okay for this year.
Mr. Aquilina?
Through Mr. Mayor, that is correct.
Okay.
Any further questions to the amendment? All those in favor of the amendment? Opposed? That will be carried. To the main motion as amended. I'm going to go back to the speakers list. You're fine, Councillor Kenny?
I'm fine, ma'am.
Councillor Bodner?
I'm just trying to get my fancy title work here. If I could ask council to go to page 111.
Councillor?
111, which is the site plan of the proposed area, which is the parking lot, I would assume. And keeping in mind that this is a fundraiser, I wonder whether they might go where it says 176 Catherine, Port Cares on there. And just to the left of that, you'll see bouncy. And more importantly, you're going to see pie throwing. And if you want to solidify my vote on this, and I'm, it's not my character to put the mayor on right on, making decisions right away, and certainly, but through you, Mr. Mayor, to Pam, I guess. Pam, I just wonder, had the mayor signed up for being a recipient of the pies? No? Okay, well, I just, that would go a long way to solidifying my vote on this, this whole thing. And Pam, I'd also be willing to pay $20 for a pie. So, no pressure, Mr. Mayor, and I'll let you make a decision later, not tonight, but,
That's an easy decision, Councillor. That's a yes. But how about we include former mayors too?
Really, I think the big dollars is going to be gained by, by people like me paying. So, just unless you can get Mayor Saraceno to come on board, I consider it. But
Neil's back in town too.
Do your best.
Thank you, Councillor Bodner. Members of council, any further questions or comments? I do have Councillor Desmarais next on the list.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. When I seconded the original motion, that was was going to be my suggestion that we strike item 3 and substitute Dan's recommendation.
Great, thank you, Councillor. Further comments or questions, members? Members, any questions further? Mr. Howe.
Your worship, one thing we need from council is a concurrence. We act on complaint, and that's really where all this started last year, and we have an idea. Well, anyway, here nor there. The fact is that we act on complaint generally for these kinds of uses, and with council's concurrence tonight, we will not act on a complaint in respect of the zoning matter should there be a complaint lodged this year on this fundraiser. The law basically is somebody else can, if they're really unhappy, they can use our bylaw to bring a claim through a civil action and let that process ferret out the complainer and not this city, as it council has in the past and will continue to support Port Cares.
Thank you, Mr. Heil. With no further comments or questions, members of council? I'll get to that in a second. I just want to take this opportunity to well, hopefully congratulate council based on a positive vote. But I want to make this statement because this isn't the first time this has happened. We've seen a few times this year, I think, with the water situation, with the individual, and others. The bottom line is that there are procedures, there are bylaws, and there are rules in place. And staff is simply doing their job, especially when a complaint is lodged. What I congratulate staff, most importantly, but I also congratulate council, is the fact that you're able to sit around this horseshoe and be flexible when it comes to those. Because there is going to be a conflict when it comes to these things and these bylaws. But to have the ability for staff to come out with some positive recommendation, and for council to work with staff, and of course the proponents to have a resolve to these situations, because let's face it, they are going to happen. They have, they do, and they will continue to. But to have the ability to be around this horseshoe and be flexible to allow these different things to happen, whether it be a fundraising event or something other than, as was in the past with the other situations that we ran into, to have that ability, you, staff, Dan, in this case you, and your staff, but as well members of council, to have that ability to be that flexible, I congratulate you for. So I'm hoping you're going to support this. I assume you are. We will, Councillor, come to your recommendation in a second, but I am going to go to the first recommendation, members of council. Are there any further questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? That would be carried. Councillor Desmarais.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to recommend that we not act on any complaint received for this year's event, and that we allow the complainant to take it through other channels, if there is one.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder to that, please? Councillor Doucette. Are there any questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? That will be carried. Thank you. Appreciate it.
I would like to thank council and staff for your support for this event and invite you to breakfast on Wednesday morning at the Retail Food Center at 7:45 to kick off the event.
Thank you.
Oh, the
Members of council, we'll now move on to the next report. Dan, I wanted to take the opportunity, I wanted to give you the opportunity actually to speak on item 11. I know it's been passed already, but if you want to speak really quickly on it, because I want to keep pushing this forward with respect to the gateway and how this aligns with the gateway, because we really want people in Port Colborne, especially members of council, to understand the whole gateway initiative and how this adds incentive to future business and development in Port Colborne. So if you can give a rundown of item 11, I'd appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I won't even look at my report. But essentially what this does, it supports the proposed gateway CIP that the region has proposed. The only comment that it asks that the city inform the region of is that we would like it to also include the rural employment lands. So what this also does, this report, it allows us to move forward with the adoption of our industrial community improvement plan. What we will do, though, we will remove the component that deals with the gateway and deal with specifically lands within an urban area boundary that does not include the gateway. Once that gateway is adopted by regional or supported by regional council, we will then open up our CIP again and include the components of the region's gateway CIP within our CIP. It's done to actually be cohesive with all the municipalities that are affected by the gateway zone and center, being Thorold, Welland, and Port Colborne, to have one community improvement plan for these areas that are consistent with all the municipalities. Essentially, the programs within the gateway CIP are very similar to our CIP. Ours are a little more specific as it relates to uses that would be supported in our employment areas. Also, what this report does, it provides direction for city staff to initiate an amendment to our official plan that also the city would look to expand the community improvement project area to include those rural employment lands. So we hope the region of Niagara follows suit and does the same thing. So what this report does this evening, Mr. Mayor, it kickstarts the whole process to deal with both our CIP and the support of the region's gateway CIP.
Great. And as I said earlier, of course, this is going to add double incentive for those businesses that want to do business here in the city of Port Colborne within the gateway lands.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. If any proposal comes forward within the gateway CIP, we would revert to the policies and programs that are under the gateway CIP. Very similar to what we're proposing throughout our industrial CIP, but it provides incentives and gives the impetus for people to want to locate in the gateway CIP. And also the region will be on board to provide matching dollars as well.
Great. Just a quick question to that, Dan. The existing, we have expansion, a lot of expansions happening right now. We have one, Thurston's expansion's happening, Oscom's about to start, JTL, Young Bunslauer. Do any of those, are they able to take advantage of any of these incentives?
Mr. Mayor, not at the moment because your CIP has not yet been adopted and approved.
Mm-hmm. Are there any incentives they can take advantage of?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Not right
Not
now?
at the present moment, no.
Okay, so
Unless
we're looking
council wants to
around-
look at any sort of retroactive
Right.
components of that, but the CIP needs to be adopted in order for it to be granted under the Planning Act and be able to provide those suite of incentives.
So we're looking around June, July. We're hoping.
Ours will be a lot sooner, Mr. Mayor.
But the regions?
The regions, that's what they're saying, early summer, June, July.
Wonderful.
And then there'll be another process that would actually open up our CIP to include all those programs that are proposed by the region.
Great, thank you. Members of council, any questions on that? Just one comment to those watching on COGECO, by all means, to take full advantage of those incentives that are available here in the city of Port Colborne within the gateway as well as the industrial CIP. If in fact you have any questions, just simply pick up the phone, give myself or Dan a call, and we can take you through the process to ensure that those incentives that are available can be taken full advantage of. So with that, members of council, we'll now move on to item 4. Councillor Steele.
Thank you, Your Worship. Move the Department of Planning and Development report number 2012-28, subject encroachment request, 136 Clarence Street Subway, be approved recommending that the Council of the Corporation of the City of Port Colborne approve the encroachment request with the following conditions. Insurance for $2 million coverage, city named as an additional insured, certificate with 30-day notice of cancellation. Unobstructed pedestrian corridor, minimum 1.54 meters, which is 5 feet, including snow buildup, and benches to be allowed all year long with no time restrictions.
Thank you, Councillor. Is there a seconder to that, please? Councillor Elliott, questions or comments to that? Councillor Steele.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to Mr. Hanson, just a couple clarifications. The benches that are in item 3 are purchased and owned by the owner of Subway?
Mr. Aquilina?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Steele, those items will actually be purchased by the city's operations department.
Councillor?
Okay, so then referring to page 57 page 2 of 3 of the report, but page 57 in our program, under options and financial considerations, it shows for additional costs for bike racks, garbage pail, things like that. Are those part of this, or is that going to be, or is that for Subway to purchase? How is that working?
Through Mr. Mayor to Councillor Steele, those are the costs to install everything, and those monies have been budgeted already through the Department of Engineering and Operations. We will pay for those.
Okay.
Councillor?
Okay, that's fine. I wasn't sure, but that it is already in our budget for those things.
Mr. Aquilina?
That is correct.
Councillor?
Now, do these tie in through what the BAA's done for garbage pails? We'll try to get as close a match, because my understanding you can't get the exact same garbage pail anymore. that type of thing, are we going to try to match what's already in?
Mr. Aquilina?
Through Mr. Mayor to Councillor Steele, I believe that is the intention, to match what we have. We may have them already in stock.
Yep.
And so they should and hopefully match what we have already in place.
Okay, good.
Great.
That's it, thank you.
Further questions, comments? Members, all in favor? Opposed? That will be carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Aquilina, further comment? No. Ange, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was just going to ask Mr. Hanson a question. I had asked you about the corner of right around Subway Subs, where there was a problem getting wheelchairs on. Will that be affected at all with this change?
Mr. Hanson?
Through Mr. Mayor, actually, it's the damage to the sidewalks on the opposite corner, so that's being addressed through sidewalk repair contract, so there's no impact there.
Thank you, Mr. Hanson. Thank you, Councillor. We'll now move on to item 15. Councillor Kenny.
Thank you, Your Worship. That the Department of Community and Corporate Services Clerks Division, report number 2012-18, subject appeal of a notice to muzzle pursuant to bylaw 4930-15506, being a bylaw provided for the licensing, control, and regulation of dogs, be approved, recommending that a hearing for the purposes considering the appeal of notice to muzzle submitted by Louise Charlebois be scheduled for May 29th, 2012 at 6:00 p.m. in council chambers, and that the following councillors be appointed as members of the appeal committee for the purposes of the above referenced hearing, that which we will appoint later on. That the request submitted by Louise Charlebois for City Council be waived, the applicable $180 fee be denied.
Thank you, Councillor. Do I have a seconder to that, please? Councillor Desmarais. Speakers, Councillor Kenny, then Bodner.
Thank you, Your Worship. Well, you have three willing councillors here. When we saw this, both Councillor Butters, Councillor Desmarais, and myself would be willing to sit on this committee. We just need a brave councillor from Ward 1. We thought it would be fair if there would be a councillor from every ward to be members of this committee, and if that is so, then I just need that brave soul to.
So can you toss us a name?
Well,
Yeah.
You want somebody from Ward 1?
Yeah.
Sure.
see, and
I'll nominate Bill.
and Councillor Steele is very comfortable sitting on this side with these three councillors.
He's used to it.
He's used to it, yeah, so I think it would be great.
He knows
Okay.
how to
Thank
follow
you.
instruction.
Thank you.
Yeah.
He's learned to ignore everything that goes on that side.
Good time to roll.
Members of council, we do have a recommendation that has been, I won't say amended, but I'll say added to, with four names: Councillor Butters, Desmarais, Kenny, and Steele. So we'll add that as part of the recommendation. Councillor Kenny, you're fine with that? And the seconder is fine with that? Seconder is fine with that? Okay, second speaker to the motion, Councillor Bodner.
No, I don't think I was on the list, was I?
Yeah, I had you as number 2, but that's fine.
Really?
Okay.
Nothing to say.
Councillor Desmarais.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, but actually, Councillor Kenny already brought it up.
Wonderful. With no further questions or comments, members of staff, any clarification that you may need? None? Okay, so we do have Councillor Butters, Desmarais, Kenny, and Steele. I would assume that you guys will choose a chair from those names. I'll leave that to you folks. With no further questions or comments, all those in favor? Opposed? That would be carried. Thank you, members. We'll now move on to item 27. Councillor Bodner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That the memorandum from Ashley Gregg, City Clerk, read delegation of authority, sale of remaining CMT lots be received, and that a bylaw be enacted to delegate the authority of the Council of the City of Port Colborne to the Chief Administrative Officer to dispose of land within the CMT subdivision in accordance with the minimum requirements established for such disposal, including a purchase price of $60,000, site plan control, and other requirements previously approved by council. That said delegation be exercised in accordance with the city's policies governing the disposal of city-owned land, and that said delegation remain in effect until the sale of all remaining CMT lots is complete.
Thank you, Councillor. Do I have a seconder to that, please? Councillor Butters. Questions or comments? Councillor Bodnar.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Mr. Heil. Mr. Heil, then this eliminates the need for council to meet and pass each one of these lots as they are offered for, or somebody comes along and wants to buy one?
Mr. Howe.
Your Worship, through you, the conditions that council have approved this delegation is the lots are $60,000 with those conditions. If an offer comes in at 1 o'clock and I'm here and they meet all the conditions, we can sign it back at 10 minutes after 1.
Thank you, Mr. Howe. Councillor.
I think that's important because I think after the last meeting when we talked, there was at least one person that approached me saying, oh, that seems like a hassle to buy a lot at CMT, but in reality it wasn't then, and it's even less so now. So just so that the public understands that it's just a streamlined process that, certainly will react quicker than calling a council meeting.
Thank you, Councillor. Thank you, Mr. Howe. Further questions or comments, members? All those in favor? Opposed? That will be carried. Thank you. Well, that does it for the agenda items, members. We'll now move on to any notices of motion. Notices of motion? With none, I will ask for a motion to adjourn this portion of the meeting. Councillor Bodnar, Councillor Doucette, questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? That will be carried. We'll now move on to our council agenda. We'll start off, Madam Clerk, with any addendum items or the introduction of same.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, there is an addendum item to be added onto the agenda, that being Confidential Chief Administrative Officer Report Number 2012-04, subject recommendation for agreement with the Canadian Union of Public Employees pursuant to the Municipal Act 2001, subsection 239, bracket 2, bracket D, labor relations or employee negotiations.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Members of council, I need a motion to confirm the agenda, please. Councillor Kenny, Councillor Steele, are there any questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? That will be carried. Are there any disclosures of interest? Councillor Elliott.
Thank you, Mayor. Item number 10 is I'm one of the people not
Thank you.
cited in
We got it. Members of council, any further disclosures this evening? With none, we'll move on to the adoption of the minutes. I do have 2 sets of minutes, and I will do them a block if you don't mind. I have the minutes of the 14th meeting regular of council, dated April 23rd, 2012, and the minutes of the 15th meeting of special of council, dated May 8th, 2012. Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Steele, Councillor Kenny, questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? That will be carried. Members, any items requiring a separate discussion? Councillor Steele.
Thank you, Your Worship. 2 items. Item number 10 for Councillor Elliott's conflict, and I got to bring back item 15. Concurring with my fellow members of the committee, unfortunately, on the day they have to meet, I'm out of town. So I've spoken to my fellow Ward 1 councillor, Mr. Elliott, and he will take my spot on the committee, so I think we better amend that motion that was brought forward. Thank you.
Did you want to have a recorded vote with that? No? I'm not trying to lead you or anything. Members of council, with those 2 items being lifted, I will ask for a motion to adopt the remainder of the items, please. Councillor Danch, Councillor Bodnar, are there any questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? That will be carried. Councillor Steele.
Thank you, Your Worship. Item number 10 for Councillor Elliott's conflict, Department of Planning and Development Report number 201236, subject noise bylaw exemption, Port Cares 92 Charlotte Street.
Thank you. Second to that, please. Councillor Danch, questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? That will be carried. Item 15, Councillor Steele.
Thank you, Your Worship. Department of Community and Corporate Services Clerks Division Report number 2012-18, subject appeal of a notice of muzzle pursuant to bylaw 4930155506, being a bylaw to provide for licensing, control, and regulation for dogs. Under the following councillors, I would like to remove my name and add Councillor Elliott to that.
Thank you, Councillor. Second to that, please. Councillor Elliott, questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? That would be I see that, Bodnar. One opposed. That would be carried. Members, I do have two proclamations that I'll read, and I'll be looking for a mover and seconder. That whereas Ontario has been a leader in protecting and advancing human rights for more than 50 years, and whereas the Ontario Human Rights Code was first proclaimed on June 15, 1962, and whereas each person has the right to be free from discrimination and harassment and to reach their full potential, no matter their race, ethnic origin, place of birth, religion, ability level, sex, gender identity, sexual orientation, or any other status. And whereas protecting human rights reduces tension and conflict and creates an atmosphere of mutual respect and belonging. And whereas municipalities play a critical role in nurturing human rights and creating equitable environments where everyone is included in work and services and able to enjoy the benefits of their community. And whereas each one of us has a role to play in making sure that human rights are respected. Now therefore, I, Mayor Vincent Badaway, proclaim June 15th, 2012 as Ontario Human Rights Code Day here in the city of Port Colborne. Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Butters, Councillor Doucette. Questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? That will be carried. The second proclamation is that whereas the Spina Bifida and Hydrocephalus Association of Ontario serves people with spina bifida and hydrocephalus, their families, and the public. And whereas Health Canada has proclaimed June as Spina Bifida and Hydrocephalus Awareness Month, and whereas there are many people who are not aware of the association or that it offers support, information, and education programs and funds research to find ways to prevent and treat these conditions. And whereas the association encourages all Ontarians to learn more about these conditions and to appreciate the challenges faced by individuals affected by them. Now therefore, I, Mayor Vincent Badaway, proclaim the month of June 12, 2012 as Spina Bifida and Hydrocephalus Awareness Month here in the city of Port Colborne. And I urge all citizens to give full consideration and attention to the Spina Bifida and Hydrocephalus Association of Ontario for the work on behalf of those with spina bifida and hydrocephalus and their families. Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Elliott, Councillor Bodner. Are there any questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? That would be carried. Members, I have many minutes of boards, commissions, and committees. We've been busy, I see. I'll be doing them in block unless you want to separate them. So I'll be looking for a mover and seconder to the minutes of the Heritage Port Colborne meeting of March 14th, 2012, the minutes of the Accessibility Advisory Committee meeting of April 11th, 2012, the minutes of the Long-Term Master Plan City Fire Chief meeting of November 2nd, 2011, the minutes of the Canal Days Advisory Committee meeting of March 21st, 2012, the minutes of the Volunteer Committee meeting of March 13th, 2012, the minutes of the Seniors Advisory Council meeting of February 16th, 2012, as well as March 15th, 2012. The minutes of the Port Colborne Transit Advisory Committee meeting of March 21st, 2012. The minutes of the Port Colborne Wainfleet Physician Recruitment, Retention, and Medical Education Committee of June 20th, 2011. Is that right, 2011?
Yes.
Wow.
Changing our process, Mayor.
Yeah, you should. The minute.
Old standing process, the old bylaw.
I thought that maybe was January 2012, but okay, June 20th. And finally, members of council, the minutes of the Port Colborne Physician Recruitment and Retention and Medical Education Committee of September 19th, 2011, November 21st, 2011, and January 16th, 2012. And the January 16th meeting will be in draft form, members of council. So with that, I'll be looking for a mover and seconder, please. Councillor Doucette, Councillor Elliott, questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? That will be carried. Members, are there any notices of motion this evening? With none, Madam Clerk, the introduction of the bylaws, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That the following bylaws be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed. Bylaw number 5790/45/12, being a bylaw to close temporarily to vehicular traffic sections of various streets for purposes of the 2012 Flavors of Niagara International Food and Wine Festival. Bylaw 5791/46/12, being a bylaw to provide authority for the town of Fort Erie to prepare a drainage report for the repair and improvement of the portion of the Zavitz Drain situated in the city of Port Colborne and the inclusion of the Shirkston North Drain and East and West Trail branches into one combined report. Bylaw 5792/47/12, being a bylaw to authorize entering into an encroachment agreement with DBJ Capital Corp. Owner and Bob Rochoux, tenant operator as Subway, Re 136 Clarence Street, Port Colborne. Bylaw 5793/48/12, being a bylaw to amend bylaw number 89-2000, being a bylaw regulating traffic and parking on city roads, Highland Avenue. Bylaw 5794/49/12, being a bylaw to authorize entering into an agreement of purchase and sale with Rankin Construction, Inc., REIT Parts 1 through 10 on Plan 59R-1037 and to repeal bylaw number 2148/95/88. Bylaw 5795/50/12, being a bylaw to appoint the named Blue Knight security employees as a municipal law enforcement officer. Bylaw 5796/51/12, being a bylaw to amend bylaw number 89-2000, being a bylaw regulating traffic and parking on city roads, Catherine Street. Bylaw 5797/52/12, being a bylaw to authorize entering into an encroachment agreement with Rodney Minor, owner, operating as Minor Fisheries Limited, Re 176 West Street, Port Colborne. Bylaw 5798/53/12, being a bylaw to appoint members to the Appeal Committee for the purposes of considering an appeal of a notice to muzzle in accordance with Bylaw 4930/155/06, being a bylaw to provide for the licensing, control, and regulation of dogs. Bylaw 5799/54/12, bylaw to delegate authority to the Chief Administrative Officer under Section 23 of the Municipal Act 2001 for the purposes of the disposition of the remaining CMT lots.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Doucette, Councillor Kenny. Any questions or comments? I'm trying to look to my left a bit more. I'm always looking to my right. Okay, I get it from both sides now. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? That would be carried. Yeah, good luck with that, Ange. Madam Clerk, the confirmatory bylaw, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That the following bylaw be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed. Bylaw 5800/55/12, being a bylaw to adopt, ratify, and confirm the proceedings of the Council of the Corporation of the City of Port Colborne at special and regular meetings of Council of May 14th, 2012.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Butters. Now, you guys won't put your hand up now, eh? You're afraid to. Councillor Bodner. Are there any questions or comments? None? All those in favor? Opposed? That will be carried. Members of council, I would also like to, before I ask for a motion to adjourn, announce the next two meetings. The next meeting is on Monday, May 28th, Committee of the Whole Council, 6:30 p.m. here in the chamber, as well as the following meeting, Monday, June 11th, 2012, Committee of the Whole and Council, once again here in the chamber, beginning at 6:30 p.m. Motion to adjourn, please. Councillor Steele, Councillor Dance. You all jumped up there, eh? Questions or comments to that? Members of council, all those in favor? Opposed? That would be carried. Have a wonderful week. I adjourn.